Okay, commissioners, we are live on YouTube. I'm going to unmute all. I'll put up the flag image and then we can start the meeting.
Okay.
Paul, we're ready.
All right. First, I'd like to welcome everyone, applicants, commissioners, city staff, and any observers that we might have. And I'd like to call the Blue Ash Planning Commission meeting of Thursday, May 7th to order. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic with which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty for justice for all. Well, that didn't go all that well. All right, so tonight on our agenda, we have first the review and approval of the February 6, 2020 meeting, and they've been electronically transmitted. Are there any corrections or additions that someone would like to make? Okay, then I'd have a motion to approve as submitted.
I'll move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to our action items for tonight. First item is the final development plan for a new office building and site development at Summit Park District. And we have, who do we have to speak to this project?
My name is Tom Wilson with Almeyer.
Okay. Would you like to make your presentation, please?
Yes, I would. Well, good evening. My name is Tom Wilson. As I said, I'm the Director of Real Estate Development for Almeyer. With me tonight is Steve Dragon. He's the Vice President of Vandecar Holdings. Together, our firms are the master developers of the neighborhoods at Summit Park. Our entity is called Summit View Development. With us tonight is also Doug Kramer, who's the Vice President of Architecture for NIR Architects. We also have Kevin Dickey, who is with MKSK. He's the landscape architect for the project. We thank you for making the accommodations to hold this virtual planning meeting under these circumstances and uncertain times. While we don't intend to go through the entire submittal package, we're certainly willing to discuss any comments you may have on the information. Kelly, if you could pull up the PowerPoint or share that.
Sorry, just one moment.
Good.
There we are.
There it is. Okay, we can go to the next.
Well, we're having difficulty advancing, so I'm going to have to keep it in a different view.
Okay.
We'll have to stay in this view.
That's fine. And if you wouldn't mind switching to the overall, that'd be great. There you go. Okay, perfect. So actually back one. There you go. Thank you. So we're here tonight seeking final development plan approval for a 3-story, 75,000 square foot Class A multi-tenant office building. The proposed building will be located within the Parkside neighborhood of the development and on a lot adjacent to the senior living facility that is currently under construction. The building will be positioned at the intersection of the future extensions of Summit Parkway, which is the new road that's shared along the property line of the Summit Park, and also Carver Woods. Initially, this will be the first office building, but plans will allow for potential to increase density by adding 2 other office buildings, approximate size of 75,000 square feet and 90,000 square feet in a campus style format with additional structural parking within this block. This will be the first of many market-driven office buildings that we envision at the overall site. The Summit office building will have vehicular access from public roadway system, which is Summit Parkway, Gateway Place, and Carver Woods Drives. Portions of these roads have already been constructed, and future phases will be constructed before completion of the construction of this office building. The building will utilize the existing regional detention basin for its stormwater management. Pedestrian access into the building will be from Summit Parkway and from the surface parking lot at the rear of the building. On full build out, the parking areas for this building will be well screened from vision along Summit Parkway. It's anticipated that this building will be leased by multiple tenants, ranging in size from 3,000 square feet up to 50,000 square feet. The building is uniquely situated to have the benefit of having tremendous views of the park and also being within walking distance of the commercial uses and restaurants located within the approach, which is our mixed-use building that's under construction, and all the amenities of Summit Park. Tenants will have the ability to enjoy outdoor seating areas at the street level, as well as elevated balconies for meetings and collaboration. The building is currently being marketed for lease by CBRE. This time, I'd like to turn it over to Doug Kramer. Doug and his team were the architects on this project, and he's going to walk through some of the specifics of the actual building.
Thanks, Tom. Good evening, commissioners. Kelly, if you would advance to the next slide, please. As Tom mentioned, the proposed building, which is the one you see on the left in the site plan there, is proposed to be 75,000 square feet. It is at the intersection of Summit Parkway and Carver Woods Drive. The proposed site plan has vehicular access from Summit Parkway, Carver Woods Drive, as well as Gateway Drive along the bottom of the slide. The vehicular access off of Summit Parkway will come between the proposed building and then a future companion building to the right. The entry drive terminates within the internal parking lot at the shared dumpster facility, that circle that you see near the middle of the screen. And we've designed that using the same materials that are featured on the building to tie it together, doing it in an architectural form to make a moment out of it, not just set it aside at the corner of the development, and see that being appropriately landscaped to get it to integrate into the building. The landscaping carries on the approach that's been used throughout the rest of the development and in the park. Generous landscaping, as Tom mentioned, for screening, and we've also given consideration to outdoor spaces, in particular at the corner of Summit Parkway and Carver Woods Drive, an outdoor space that you'll see later in some of the renderings. Also want to point out that the rooftop mechanical equipment will be fully screened with a ribbed metal panel to complement the architectural metal that's used on the facade. Kelly, if you would go to the next slide, please. This is a view along Summit Parkway. Carver Woods Drive would be on the right-hand side of the image. The proposed material palette looks to the buildings that are already within the development, and in particular, the park itself. The pavilion buildings have a strong masonry and use of wood, so we wanted to incorporate that, begin to work in the color and hue that you see in those buildings. We're using a modular brick rather than the large format stone, just because of the different scale of the development. And then the wood panel that you see signifying the entry points around the building. So that's about in the middle there, extending up above the main parapet of the building. At the corner of Summit Parkway and Carver Woods Drive, we've got the curved curtain wall and metal panel feature to introduce some variation along that facade. As I said, we want to complement and integrate ourselves with the other buildings in the development, but we don't want to compete too much. We recognize that the park buildings are really important and are the main feature of the park. We don't want to detract from that, but we certainly want to honor those. The Hamilton County Crime Lab further east on Carver Woods is also an important building, And so the use of the glass as is used on that building is an important thing that we took into consideration in the development of the design of the building. Next slide, Kelly. This is the rendering from the parking lot side. Carver Woods Drive would be just off to the left-hand side of the image. Again, use of brick and the wood panels along with generous amounts of glass to break up the facade. You see the future phase building just off to the right in the image there. Next slide. This is a detailed blow up of the pedestrian entry along Summit Parkway. I've referenced that outdoor plaza space at the corner. Outdoor spaces are a huge part of what makes the park such a vibrant place. So we wanted to make sure we incorporated those elements, not just at grade, but also you see the balconies at the second and third floor above the entry point for tenants to be able to step outside during the day. Next slide. I've touched on the material palette. This is a breakdown of the main components. We've shared both a close-up view of the basis of design for the materials, but also some precedent images of the product in buildings. So starting at the upper left, you have a dark brick base. There is a small brick masonry base on some of the park buildings. We want to ground the building, provide that base to the sill line of the building. And then above that, we have the beige brick that's in the upper right. That forms the primary component of the facade, ties back to the large format stone used in the park buildings, provides a nice background field for which to set the building, and then have these flourishes like the wood paneling that's in the lower left, that provide an accent and also signify entry. And then finally, glass, which we see is a highly transparent glass. The color comes from the low E coating that's there for energy efficiency. So it's a slight color, but it's also neutral. So again, it's not detracting, but rather providing a backdrop within the development. Next slide. As I referenced, we've given consideration to the buildings that surround the proposed building, in particular the park. So this is a rendering taken from the park, and the proposed building is in the background just to the right of the center of the image. You see the restaurant component, the outdoor seating of the restaurant and the pavilion, the approach multifamily in the background to the left. But we've laid in the proposed building to give a sense of how it participates in the overall arrangement of the buildings within the park. Next image. Another view from the park, this one down by the observation tower. In the background, you see the proposed building, and really want to highlight how the beige brick picks up the large format masonry of the pavilion. The wood that it's on the pavilion is reflected in the wood panels above the entry to, again, complement but not take away from the park buildings. Thank you.
So again, thank you for making arrangements to hold tonight's meeting. The members of our development team are happy to answer any questions that you may have on the information in tonight's presentation or anything in the package that was submitted to Dan Johnson earlier in the month.
All right, well, thank you. I personally, it looks to me like notwithstanding future structures, this may be the most attractive building in the development. I think you've done a nice job mixing the various materials. My The rest of the commission may have a different opinion, but that's my opinion. And, you know, certainly it's very attractive, and we're, you know, to compliment you on your design. I personally, as I've looked through the plans, the only thing that I have an issue or concerns about is the surface parking behind the building, whether that's necessary to that extent for this one structure, or it's just preliminary when you're putting the whole picture together for all three structures. But that's a lot of parking there.
So, Paul, that's a good point. And as I mentioned, we think that this site can actually hold 3 buildings. And so we will, at that point, if we get to that full density, a portion of this parking lot would be converted to structured parking. So initially, kind of the standard for office is between 4 and 5,000, 4 and 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of office space. And, you know, that certainly can change based on, you know, higher density of user, but the general rule of thumb is about 4.5 per 1,000 of square foot of office space. That's what's shown here on the left-hand side. It's essentially a 4.5 ratio, which in today's market, it's really difficult to provide less than that for today's office users.
So that you believe that 4.5 would be a requirement even at the initial stage and with a single building?
So just to be clear, I don't know if you can see on this, there's a slight dash around the parking area. We wouldn't build the entire parking lot out of the gate. The second half of the parking would really be the result of the second building coming online.
Right, I see, you know, but I'm just saying, how many parking lots do you have associated with the first building and the first construction there?
That specific number is, I believe, I think it's on there. Does it say
374 or something?
374? Yeah, that's a comment.
I mean, that's just my personal observation. And then I see in there's a whole lot of runs that are without landscaping islands or some interruption in those, in the parking lot, in the space count.
Well, those are, the green areas do represent landscape plans. In this plan, it's not as detailed as the actual landscape plan that was submitted with it, but there is additional detail as far as the landscaping within those parking islands. If you're able to see that.
Well, in our normal code, I'm not sure what they are, Dan, you might correct me. How many spaces are there supposed to be between landscape islands? Dan, are you there? Dan Johnson?
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
It's every 15 spaces.
15 spaces?
Yeah. So between each
You know,
15 spaces.
I
Some
haven't
sort of
counted them, so I don't know. I like I say, I didn't go to the trouble of counting them, but it seems like there's many that would not, you know, meet that criteria, that there's not enough of them. So that's mine, and I'll let the rest of the board, you know, discuss their concerns or whatever their, you know, issues are. That's really my only you know, problem or a concern. I would say not a problem. If it's what we have to have, then that's what we need to have. But you know, you do need to have sufficient buffering between or consistent landscaping with the rest of the development, which you said that you've addressed. And hopefully that will then sort of shield you know, this massive parking lot. And if you went to 3 buildings, would you have to have a parking garage?
We would, Paul. We would go to structured parking in that scenario. So that,
Okay.
on the lower right-hand side, that lower block would be where we would propose a parking structure.
Okay. All right, then I'll turn it over. John, do you have any comments? Dylan, Mr. Dylan? Are you muted?
He's on mute. Yep.
There we go. No, and at a glance, it looks like there's basically 15 spots between landscaping on here at the islands. But that's it. I think it's a beautiful project too.
Appreciate
Okay,
that.
Mark, our landscaper, you got some comments?
No, I think it looks good. I mean, the concern of not, I mean, there are gaps where you don't have landscape island every 15 spaces, particularly on the kind of that larger center spine, but that is all landscaped. It's a very wide median, or not a median, but just an island area. I think that makes up for some of the missing islands based on the code requirement of the 15 spaces. That's all I have.
All right. That's all you have? Okay, good. How about Steve?
All right, unmuted. Have a couple of questions. Is the size of the building, I went back and looked at what was in the original proposal from back in July of 2016. And in there, it talks about buildings being a size of about 100,000 to 300,000 square feet. And obviously this one's coming in at 75. Are you downgrading it for some reason, or what's just curious why it's 75,000, not 100,000 or more?
Sure. So the narrative for this particular neighborhood, this middle block, that really represented office across that entire block, not just this particular block that shows these two buildings. It was that entire neighborhood. So we envisioned that point that, it could be as much as or as low as 100,000 up to 300,000. I think what you're seeing here is the first building, 75,000, but with plans for a sister 75,000 square foot building and even another 90, that certainly gets us into that range that we had anticipated early on. And there are other opportunities within that Parkside neighborhood to do additional office as well, across from Carver Woods.
Okay. The wood that you're showing on the facade, is that wood, or is that, I'm kind of equating, if you're going on 71, you see the Mayfield building there kind of in Norwood, and they've got a neat looking type of what appears to be wood. Is that kind of what you're envisioning, or are you actually thinking actual wood?
No, it would be that product that's used on the Mayfield building. We were the architect for that building. It's manufactured by a company called Prodema, and it's a real wood veneer with a protective coating on it, panelized system. And we've also used it on the UC Health building a little bit further up 71, there on the right-hand side or left-hand side as you head north.
I will say, when I watch that go on that building there, I'm thinking, why would they put wood on something like that and all the sun and everything? And boy, it's really proven me wrong. It's held up very well and is very attractive. Let's see. The plantings and landscaping that you've got going in, is there any type of a underground sprinkler system being planned so those plants stay looking as gorgeous as what you've got portrayed in the picture all the time?
Typically with office buildings, we do irrigation systems, and obviously in this one is pretty heavily landscaped, and usually the best way to keep those plantings alive is with an irrigation system. So our budget includes having an irrigation system to keep these plants healthy.
That's great. Those. Okay. Over here. I'm in the I guess the packet of large plans that Dan gave us, and I'm on sheet C-4.0. The roundabout that's being eventually going to end up in that plan, is that, I mean, I think your parking ratio that you've got sitting in here at about 1 per 219, 220 square feet is at least what has been a kind of a good norm, has worked out pretty well. When you put the roundabout in, is that going to have a big detriment on your parking need?
We don't believe that it will. I think the count was maybe 7 or 8 spots that we would potentially lose, and we would figure out a way to accommodate those elsewhere on the site. I mean, we have shown the roundabout outline on there as something we've discussed with Gordon in the past. So we just wanted to knowing that that's a discussion that we've had with Gordon, we wanted to at least represent that as it would impact this particular site.
Okay, and then for the dumpster, I noticed that it talks about that it's going to be the, heavy black topping and that, and just wondering, I mean, are you just delaying a future problem? Because I've never seen blacktop, even heavy duty blacktop, hold up well against the fronts of the Rumpke trucks and that, and just curious because it's only, I mean, the depth of it is only about an additional inch of blacktop and 2 more inches of gravel. Just coming from a property management background, I see a potential problem there for you.
That
Just
the
an
dumpster
observation.
area is actually shown as concrete pavement. I know the hatching doesn't read real well on those plans, but it is intended to be concrete pavement in that area.
And then even the roadway, the area leading right up to it. So what you're saying is that the front wheels of the Rumpke truck will be on concrete. The back wheels will be on a high depth blacktop.
Likely, I think. I mean, the entrance, from the street towards the dumpster area would be heavy duty asphalt. Once you get to that drive entering the circular dumpster area, that would become the concrete pavement, so that the wheel turns would be made primarily on the concrete, so it's not to damage the asphalt.
Okay. I'm on now sheet C 5-0. Just curious, I was reading the little subnotes up on the top where it talks about earthwork, grading, and drainage. And it says to remove the topsoil. Why does everybody remove the topsoil and then you go in and you put plants in, and you're trying to put plants in on the great clay we've got around here? To me, it would just make sense to hang on to the topsoil, and maybe I'm wrong in my impression.
Yeah, Steve, good question. So topsoil is typically removed just for the initial grading. We always kind of keep the topsoil. We'll put it in a different location when we come back to doing the plantings for the lawn and for the landscape areas. We'll replace and put down the topsoil, but it's used to get down to a more compactable level to set your grades and final elevations. And then you'll come back on top and put the topsoil on top of that. It's really just a way to get down to the subsurface for compaction and things like that.
Yeah, because I've in watching the homes there at Daventry, I mean, all that topsoil that was there disappeared off site. And now I watch the homeowners and watch the people dig to put these plants in. I'm thinking, well, gee, all the good stuff they sold to help in their development or grading cost or whatever.
Yeah, we've got a pretty large pile of topsoil out on our site that's from the MI site. So we've got more than we can handle.
All right. The beige blend, the brick cladding, that's not individual bricks. That's going to come up in kind of in a preformed area and then attached, or is it actual brick by brick being put in there? I'm on I guess it's page A3.1, and I'm just looking at the footnote 03, which says beige blend brick cladding.
Yep. We're evaluating both options of a field laid masonry, individual modular size bricks, but also a veneer on a precast. Typically, the precast is more expensive, and I would expect that we will rely on a field laid brick for this building, but we are investigating both options.
All right. The balconies are a great idea. It'll be interesting to see how many people really use them. I've had numerous buildings over the years where people love to have the balcony, but then they never go out, or they'll use it once or twice a year. The other
Yes,
item,
we've had that happen before too. I think in this case, the uniqueness of having that park there is a pretty spectacular view. So our hope is that it is one that gets used on a regular basis.
and you know, Tom, it's kind of like people have it on the checklist. They like to see it, but they never really use it.
Yep, I hear you.
That's got my questions.
Hey, I need to ask a question here of city staff. And I appreciate all of Steve's comments, but does he have a conflict of interest being a CBRE employee?
Paul, I'm not a CBRE employee.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not?
Well,
No, I'm with Eagle Realty.
hey,
Oh, okay,
Paul.
that's mine.
Paul, this is David Walls. Regardless of
Yes, sir.
who he's employed with, a conflict would only occur, and this would be for everyone, if he has a direct financial interest or if he's employed by someone who has a direct financial interest in this. So I'm not sure what you were alluding to, and I don't really know what Steve's role is at the moment, his employment, but yeah, unless he is
Okay.
employed by one of the NIR affiliates and or
Okay,
is a personal investor, and there'd be no conflict of interest.
okay. I just wanted to ask the question. Didn't want any
Sure.
issues
problem.
to come back. Thanks, Steve, for the clarification.
Not a
Okay,
problem.
Mike, you have any?
Oh,
Go ahead.
a couple minor things. Kelly, can you go back to the site plan, please? Any of them will do.
I will do my best.
Okay. Question, so you can be thinking about it, Tom. On the site plan, you'd mentioned there may be a third office building, 90,000 square feet or thereabouts. Once she gets the site plan up, can you tell me the location,
Sure.
southeast corner, southwest corner, pretty much where you think that third, you said it'd be kind of a campus setting, so where you
Correct.
think the third office building, that one's fine, Kelly.
Yep.
Where it may be.
So Mike, if you were to look on the where Carver Woods and Gateway Place intersect, so
Okay.
that's if the park is north, this would be the southwest corner. So it would
Okay.
really be situated where Parkview Drive comes in, kind of sits in that block there, the lower quadrant of the overall block. So
And then if you needed a parking structure, would be in the southeast corner, then adjacent or fairly adjacent to that third building.
yes, that's correct, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, overall, this building actually is very similar in design and what was presented in the concept plan. It's kind of interesting. Usually concept plans, they get stretched out, but this one actually fit in very well with what was in the concept plan. And I agree with Paul and the others. It's an attractive building, and I think it'll be a very big plus to the Summit Park area on doing that. The only thing I had, and it's really just in one of the conditions that Dan had in the staff report, I would like to see the lighting plan actually approved by the city prior to going to council. Are you far enough along to be able to do that?
So Mike, just to clarify, initially when we had submitted our package to Dan, it did not have a lighting plan, but hopefully the information that you received does have that in there. So it should be one of the last drawings in the package of information that you received from Dan, either Friday or Monday, I think.
Okay.
But initially when we submitted our first package, the lighting plan was still in the works. We have since followed up, and the full package does have a lighting plan attached to it.
Yeah, the last sheet looked like a lighting plan. I didn't actually see it identified as such. And Dan, I assume that'll be reviewed and approved by either the city architect or city engineer prior to this whole package going to council.
Yes, yeah. I have actually looked at it already.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have, Paul.
Okay. Any further discussion from the commissioners? City staff have anything they'd like to add? They're all
I don't
muted,
have
I
anything
think.
significant. I'm sorry. I don't have anything significant to add other than I do agree the development looks very attractive. I know council has been excited about the opportunity to see office development in there. I think it looks like Niall did a good job on design. So we're excited. Obviously, we will see how successful it is over the next year as everything has kind of changed. So we wish them luck in marketing that and what have you, but certainly we'll give them all of our support and rah-rahs that we can. So that's all I have to say.
Appreciate it. Thank you, David.
Okay, great. All right, there being no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. I'll make a motion that we forward to council for their consideration the final development plan for a new office building and site development in the Summit Park District. Included with that would be the 5 conditions recommended by city staff. And those are written down. There's no reason to repeat them. On addition number 5, though, and although I know it's been submitted, I would just add to that a lighting plan shall be submitted and approved prior to going to council.
Okay. Is there
I'll
a second to
second
the
that.
motion?
Steve will second.
It's been moved and second. Tracy, could you call the roll?
Actually, I'm going to call the roll here for you.
Okay, Dan, could you call the roll?
I will. Steve Richter,
Yes.
John Dillon.
He's muted.
Hold on, let me unmute.
You're
Something,
muted, John.
I know, I think we keep on, it's all right, yes.
Mike Duncan,
Yes.
Paul Collins,
Yes.
Mark Kirby.
Yes.
Bye-bye. We will get that sent on to council.
Okay, thank you. There you go. We will forward to council with our recommendations. Thank you very much for your proposal, and you know, we hope to see that finished product there looking just like that.
Great. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thank you. Okay, item B. Is there anybody from Chick-fil-A here on this plat?
I am.
For the
I will be
Chick-fil-A
here on their
property?
behalf. I'm going to do this
All
one for
right,
them.
then. Very good.
So
Then,
you have,
we're good.
okay. So there's not a lot of detail here because all this is Chick-fil-A following up on what the city, what they proposed and what city council accepted as a part of their plan unit development approval, which is that they were going to build a public sidewalk along Reed Hartman Highway, wrapping around to Ashwood Drive. And as a part of that, I believe the request was that be, they preferred to do that on public property. And so they opted to do this plat to separate just the land that would represent everything they own from the inside edge of the sidewalk out to the existing roadways. So really this is just a split to accommodate the public sidewalk.
Okay, sounds simple enough. Any commissioners have any questions on this?
Only comment that I have, Dan, on the agenda under Planning Commission, the location, the copy and paste gotcha. It's still listed as neighborhoods at Summit Park.
That's the first time that's ever happened. So
Been there quite a few times.
you're right. That is
That's
not the location. This is on Reed Hartman Highway at Ashwood Drive.
Okay, I'll ask again, are there any?
I have one comment. The site work is going along very nicely. It was good to see them. It sat there for a long time, and I was a little concerned with the way the economy is going right now, but they've been going gangbusters now for the last couple of weeks. And putting in the underground detention system, which is unique in itself. And very, very happy to see them moving forward and doing work on the site. Very nice job going on.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Any other comments? Hearing none, then I would also entertain a motion on this item.
I'll take a shot at it. I move that we accept the proposed plot for the Chick-fil-A development on Reed Hartman Highway. Am I close
Second.
enough?
Sounds good.
Uh,
That's close enough. And we have a second. Would you call the roll, Dan?
I would. John Dillon,
Yes.
Mike Duncan,
Yes.
Paul Collett,
Yes.
Mark Kirby,
Yes.
Steve Richard.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you. Is there any miscellaneous business to be brought before the commission tonight?
It's not so much business for the planning commission, but I just wanted to provide a quick update on some things going on in the city. I know many of you probably are wondering what the latest is. Hopefully you're getting informed through our newsletters and our e-blasts and what have you. But I just thought I'd make you aware of a few highlights. The Memorial Day Parade, which Paul participates in, has been canceled. However, there will be a virtual parade, and there's a touching little video that is being prepared. I know yesterday some people saw it and said that they actually got pretty sentimental about it. So our plan is to have a Memorial Day Parade. Just it'll be done virtually via video, and so look for information on that. Summit Fest in mid-June has been canceled, and today we announced unfortunately we decided to go ahead and cancel the 4th of July Red, White, and Blue Ash event for a variety of reasons. The logical question people would ask is what else is being canceled? Is everything being canceled? At this point, we are holding off on the smaller events, making a decision on the smaller events. I'm going to try to still see if we can do some of those for the community, including having the pool open and what have you. But certainly the bigger events, there was something to be said about removing that. The amount of planning and work and safety involved in that, we felt it best to go ahead and cancel that. The other thing you may want to pay attention to at the last council meeting, I believe it was the last council meeting, we showed some renderings of revitalizing the downtown park called Town Square. That's where the amphitheater is and the Friday night concerts are. The architects and staff went to council with 3 general ideas. One was just keep every amenity in place and refreshing them. The second one, we said, well, let's keep all the amenities, but how will we better reconfigure everything if it was a blank piece of paper? And so you may see that plan out there also. It's available on our website. Everything's still there, including the Veterans Memorial, what have you, but everything's been moved and shifted so it functions better. It it has more purpose to it. It breathes a little bit. We've added some amenities and what have you. And then the third option we put out there, it didn't have any realistic legs to it, but we know the library in downtown has indicated that they need to rebuild their library or relocate of some sort. So we just simply plotted some general schematics of the library being there just to see if it was even an option. Council was not interested. They felt like it crowded the the site a little bit. So you won't see that pursued, but you'll probably see something similar to option B. If you look up those plans, you'll see option B. That's still very much a basic rendering and conceptual ideas. We have to work through the details, but the concept is that we kind of reconfigured everything and gave it some efficiencies and laid everything out better, allowed events to happen better, including Memorial Day parade. We wouldn't, for instance, an improvement in the future, we wouldn't need to bring in a separate stage and have it set up the way it is. We would be able to accommodate that on the existing stage because it would be two-sided and what have you. So I don't have those plans as part of tonight's presentation, but certainly encourage all of you to look at those. I think it's very exciting. I think it's going to be great to have that park downtown get a facelift, for lack of a better word. It's been probably 30 plus years since it was there. It was piecemeal together through the years, and now it's time to kind of lay it out a little better and reconfigure while keeping all of the initial program interesting and nothing is being taken away, so to speak. And that's really all I have to say on that. Lastly, I'll say, Mark, Planning Commissioner Mark Kirby, I believe this is one of your last meetings, and not your last meeting. I know you indicated you were leaving.
Yes.
Sorry to have you leave. We really, really, really enjoyed your leadership, your background on this, your knowledge, your landscape architecture background. It's going to be a tough job to find someone to replace you provided this. So on top of that, you were just a very well-meaning resident. Really appreciate all of the thoughts and time and effort that you put into this effort. And so just want to thank you for your service on the plan.
Yes, thank you.
That's all I have, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the update on that. I presume that's a long-range plan for the refresh?
So I don't know what the definition of long range is. And your mouth's moving, so I don't know whether you said something or not. But the idea is we would like to probably do something next year. I think you'll probably see us do design work the rest of this year. Certainly take some public input and what have you. We've got to figure out what that process is. Typically, we do some open houses in person with people, right? And so that may be difficult now. And then sometime next year, you would see us start to advance that. Now, with the economy the way it is and finances the way it is, I could see that getting pushed off for another cycle. But when you say long-range plan, I think our goal is to kind of start thinking about getting that going within the next couple of years. Maybe as optimistic as next year, but I wouldn't plan on it now just based on finances.
I'm not going to hold you to it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't hold you to it because a lot of unknowns going on right now. That's for sure.
Right.
Anything else, gentlemen?
I do have one question for David. I noticed in the monthly calendar, it said the council meeting next week would be under the canopy. Is it going to be like an open air council meeting that citizens can come to?
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. So yeah, if we had put that notice out, unfortunately it has been changed. Council decided at the time we put that notice out, we were anticipating this shelter orders maybe to be lifted. We still are allowed to have a meeting, since it's an essential government function, but I think council kind of talking with me last week said, let's just be safe, let's have one more meeting via Zoom. So next week will still be via Zoom and not under the canopy. And so you'll see us announcing that probably early next week.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, then, is there a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Can't hear. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, thank you. Then we'll adjourn the Planning Commission meeting for May 7th. Thank you, gentlemen.